Good evening. My name is Terry Glenn. I am speaking today on the differences between academic plagiarism and pulpit plagiarism. The author Pearson writes that academic plagiarism is the failure to acknowledge your sources or the act of making it appear that someone else's work is your own. The author Ron Farsick writes in his article, Just What is Pulpit Plagiarism? In a world of preaching, a pastor who takes sermons from other preachers word for word without giving credit is guilty of plagiarism. This is stealing what is not yours. In my opinion, there is no difference between the two. And the pastor of that church is not only guilty of plagiarism, but is also deceiving the congregation of being a true man of God. Ed Steiser of Preaching Plagiarism and Sermon Censure writes that the practice of using other sermons is not spiritually healthy for a pastor or the church, and this robs a church of a truly prophetic word. I believe pastors that preach other sermons do not feed their flock what God truly has for them. What God speaks to another preacher may only be what is his church needs or for someone in the audience at that time. People are at different points in their life and need different encouragement from God. What may be wrong in one church, the other church may need something different. Pastors should seek God's face and have Him give him what He wants for His people. And the people will lead with the right instructions from God. Then God can fix the problems in their lives. People come to church looking for a word from God through their pastor. If they wanted someone else's word, then they could attend that pastor's church. If a pastor has truly been called by God, he should do what he has been called to do. If the pastor is stealing, how can he effectively preach the word of God? It is wrong to do this academically and from the pulpit. And God's people are being deceived. This is dishonest for a pastor to do this. Pastors should always look to God for His word, that he may preach the word of God to the people in his congregation. People come to church looking for something from God, and they expect to receive a word from God. How can a pastor be effectively a good leader of his flock if he's not preaching what thus says the Lord? If he's only preaching what other pastors are preaching? I say pastors should always stay fervent in prayer, look to God, and then they will receive the right words for their people. If you're leading people the right way, this is what you should do. Plagiarism is wrong, and it is stealing, and there is no excuse for any pastor to be doing such a thing. When a pastor does use other people's words, which it is done on occasionally, and there's nothing wrong with it if it's excited. If excited that the other pastor did do these words. But quoting other pastors without correctly giving sources is not right. And this pastor should be removed from the pulpit, in my opinion. I believe that he should preach, thus does the Lord, to his congregation and that they should be receiving the benefit of the word of God given to their pastor, not the word of God given to their pastor by some other preacher. This is not the way that is done. If God gives you a preacher from his own heart, then that preacher, who is from God's heart, should do God's work in the right manner that it should be done in. And this is what I believe that should be done, and I believe that this is the right thing to do. Plagiarism in any form is just wrong. And that's just Terry's opinion. Thank you.